All right, hello everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. Hang on, we have some duplication. What is going on here? There we go. All right. It's funny because like a bunch of sometimes this does work, sometimes this doesn't work. I'm curious now. How are the two chats looking differently? That's a little harder to read. I need to have like a nicer chat for YouTube at the moment. This is clearer at the moment. How are you all doing today? Hello Talon, hello Kai, and hello Roan. Leslie, hello, welcome in. How's everything going? And hello Blank. Lovely to see you all today. And Dolphin. Hello. I'm glad you guys are here today. This is gonna be a good stream. This is gonna be a fun stream. How is the music volume level for you all? Hopefully it's okay. Just wanna check before we start on that. Doing good, up to my eyeballs in mech. Roan, I might need to ask your help for mech work at some point in the future. Good, and I'm so happy I'm early. This is a good stream to be early to. Sometimes it doesn't matter too much, but this is going to be an educational stream. I have a lot to teach you all. I'm excited. Can't have a VTuber talk stream without stuff when talking VTubers. I'm hoping there's not too much scuff. It would be nice if there's not. Yeah, the music is really soft. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I'm happy you decided to make the character concept stream. I'm excited about it. I think it actually, it sort of, opens up a lot of, potentials for me. So it's been fun to explore. I'd love to continue learning more about making great VTuber designs. This is going to be an interesting stream, right? Because I actually have a bit of a, not controversial. What is the word? Not impractical, not controversial. What am I trying to think of? Non-conventional. I have a bit of a non-conventional approach to this. Can we also do art challenges in another stream one day? Emojis, it's a challenge, etc, etc? Yeah, absolutely. I still love doing the art challenges. I'm definitely not going to stop doing them. I just, I've been switching things around. I mentioned last stream that I want to start experimenting with some streams that are not all drawing on the screen. Some of them are more presentation or talking to you guys. So I'm sort of playing around, I'm experimenting, I'm trying new things. Do not worry, there's going to be a lot of challenge-related things that I'm building in the future in general, like there's going to be a lot with Illusionari and Stargazers, as some of you might know, so there's going to be plenty of times for art challenge stuff. Little late, but here I am. Hello, Vessa, and hello, Murdoch. Would today's design lesson apply with spooky horror aesthetics? It can apply with any aesthetics, because we're actually... Okay, I don't want to spoil everything, but like I said, it's a little bit unconventional how I approach this, but I genuinely think that this is a really great foundation. And then I might do you know, another stream talking more on the design side. You'll see what I mean. I have lots of ways that we can go with the streams. Mech help, cubes in rotation and reference. Fair enough. Please make sure you cover some character name stuff too if you can. We can definitely talk about that later. I don't have it prepared here, but we can definitely have some discussion about it for sure. Also, hello Suno on the V-stream side. There's a conventional approach to avatar conceptualizing. I think there's a common approach. I think there is a, I think there's sort of what I typically see, and then there's sort of what I think might be a little bit more useful. Personally. Personal opinion. But yeah, alright. So, music level is okay for you guys? Everything is all set? All good with you? I have a stream idea that might not be good, but a challenge? Emoji challenge, but for dragon puppets. Dragon puppets? That sounds really specific. What do you... By dragon puppets, I'm guessing you mean, like, the art dolls that sort of lay on your shoulders? Double checking, no Twitch today? No, I figured that it, I'm trying to experiment focusing more on the YouTube side, and I think for something educational and presentation-based, YouTube makes more sense for it. Might still not be a VTuber, may use this with characters for future stories. That could work. This is definitely fairly VTuber focused, but if you can get something from it, then that's good. I think you still can. And, just so that we established that before, if you want to join the Discord at some point, and thanks, Restream, I need to, like, have a setup that is just focused on YouTube. Awesome. Okay. Vesa, can you shout out the Discord? Because apparently I can't. On your hand, like paper puppets. Dragon is so specific already, though. I might have to talk to you about that one later. Wait, maybe if I go on the YouTube side, I can do it. Oh, Vesa beats me to it. That works. Alrighty here. How to create PNG tubers for Vtube Mini with many emotes? I think that would be a good stream. I could do it in theory, but that would be really hard to do in a stream. You know what? I'll write it down. I'm curious now. Vtube Mini stream? Question mark? I beat you by about 5 seconds. But yeah, if you guys want to have any discussion after the stream about this, then definitely feel free to join the Discord, and we would be happy to have you. It is a safer work, art-focused Discord, but I have an entire channel called Creative Cafe, which is all about general discussion of creative concepts and ideas. But with that, let's go to our... Make sure I do this right. Let's go to our main scene for today. I have a little bit of a different setup. You guys are probably familiar with it in general. Few different things that I've switched around. But yes, today's presentation is going to be about VTuber concepts before the art. From my perspective as a professional concept designer. I've been doing a lot of concept work. I actually do have, a degree in character and visual development, and through my time being a VTuber, there are some things that I have noticed that sort of repeat time and time again, and I feel like I have an approach to this that is a little, I think has a nice solid foundation to it, right? Alright. So, when most people think of the VTuber concept, I find that a lot of them want to go straight into their design. They want to figure out what they look like. They want to, you know, figure out all their cute accessories, hairstyles, everything like that. They have an idea of what would look cute or cool. But as a visual designer, I actually think that it's not good to start with the visuals first. And I know this sounds confusing, but hear me out. I see most people, they start off, they want to go to design, then they want to quickly force in their lore, then figure out what content they make, and then that's their VTuber concept. And I personally believe that the order you should work in is figuring out your content, then deciding on your lore, then figuring out your design, and then leading into your concept. Now, why would I say this? Why would I, as a visual designer, as someone who is obsessed with concepts and branding and visual communication, why would I say leave the visuals for last? I believe that you spend so much time focusing on your appearance that you develop a quick lore, try to just get the idea done, and then you figure out, okay, what do I want to stream? And what I typically see is most VTubers figure out how cool they want to look, then they make a nice lore about usually being a failed science experiment, an alien who's come down to Earth, a demon who's been kicked out of hell, like, why am I streaming? And then it usually all dives down and devolves into, and now I stream because I want to get along with people and make friends and play games and relax. And the whole VTuber idea kind of loses the strength that it could have. Now, I'm someone who is very lore-focused, very, focused on the communication with the audience aspect, so for me, I put a bit more importance than some other people would, so again, this is just how I personally, take the idea. But I believe if you start with the content first, you can focus on building your concepts around the content you make, the lore around the content you make, and you can have a much stronger tie-in. And you're able to explain on stream why you're doing the things you do, instead of, I just want to make friends and have fun and play games and relax. You could tie in something very interesting. So, for example, why are you playing Souls-like games? Why do you like to do cooking streams? Why are you creating music on stream? You know, the most important part of VTubing is the content that you make as a VTuber, right? Visuals need to stand for something to mean anything. Yeah, exactly. You need to know what you're representing before you can draw it. Yes, 100%. It's more cohesive like that because everything else will inform the image, yeah. I really hate so then I decided the best way to do that is to try a VTubing thing because it doesn't make sense. In lore, the character shouldn't just be streaming. In lore, your character should be streaming, not VTubing. That implies that you're not real. Exactly. There are people who do not put the same importance level on this as I do, but to me, this is the essence of VTubing. This is what makes VTubing special, because if you don't want to focus on this part, then you would be just as fine being a facecam streamer, right? And that's fine. If that's what you want to do, no problem with that at all. I love taking VTubing to the highest extent of the level that VTubing can offer. What makes it unique? Why are you a VTuber? So, going back to my previous examples, you know, why are we playing these games, doing cooking streams, creating music, figuring out first what it is I want to be spending all my time doing, because you can spend a bunch of time focusing on what you look like, but if you don't enjoy what you do, you're not going to last long in VTubing because you don't have the passion for what you're spending 90% of the time doing. You'll have a bit of a initial, you'll have a bit of an initial boost, a little bit of a dopamine hit, you'll have your design debut, people will see how cool you look, that's gonna be all great, you'll think of yourself as being super cute, super cool, get a bunch of fan art. That will last for a bit. That is the initial honeymoon phase of VTubing, right? Is having your really cool design that everyone wants to see, and what do people say? If you're not entertaining, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter how amazing your model moves or how much you've spent on it, if you can't captivate your audience, then your design doesn't matter. And I say this as someone who professionally does design work. So, take it from me. I'm putting myself on the line here, right? This is my career. But I absolutely believe that the most important thing, and you can change it because, you know, as VTubers, we're going to shift what we like. But, you know, experimenting, trying new things. I did a just chatting stream for the first time last week. But you have to have an idea of why you're making content in the first place. Your reason for content creation could be just simple as growing a community around the games I like. It absolutely could. But I think that there should be a VTubing reason tied into that. And if that is your lore, is just wanting to grow the community, there could be a really cool reason for it. So, let's say you're doing the Souls-like games, the cooking streams, the music. What's something that we could do as VTubers that could explain why we do these things on stream? Maybe we play Souls-likes because we are a knight VTuber who was exiled from the Royal Guard. We now play these games that remind us of our past life. Maybe if we could prove our worth with the sword and show how competent we are, the Royal Guard might let us back into their guild. If we're a cooking VTuber, maybe we are an alien from another world, and the food that we have is completely different than anything on Earth. Maybe we were the best chef, 5-star chef on our home planet. Something happened and we fell to Earth. There it is, going back to that common lore that I've seen before, alien that falls to Earth. But instead, we now have these ingredients we have never heard of before, and we are determined to still keep our status. That's what we live for, right? We can't lose our 5-star chef prestige just because we're stuck on another planet. That's not gonna stop us. We're going to learn about the weird Earth cuisine, the weird food on Earth, the weird ingredients, and we are going to make the best food possible. Or we do a bit of experimentation and playing around because we really don't understand all these strange fruits, like durians and dragon fruit. What is that? So, we explore our cooking that we are unfamiliar with, but we want to try to cultivate an audience that might be interested in what we have to offer. Let's say we're a music VTuber. We love playing music on stream and we love entertaining an audience. Maybe we're a demon VTuber who comes from the underworld. We had a band in the underworld, and through some horrifying catastrophe, our band got split up, literally. And now we've come to Earth, and we are doing our best to find our band members again. And the best way to find our band members is to get our name out there, and the best way to get our name out there is to play music for a crowd. If we can get ourselves in the presence of more people, we've increased our chances of finding our friends again. So, basically what these boil down to is playing games on stream, cooking on stream, and making music on stream. But there's so much more potential for why we specifically are doing the things that we're doing. And if you are on stream yourself, and you have new people come in and they say, what's this all about? Then you can explain it in a way that is so much more intriguing and mysterious and captivating to want to make things feel more alive, right? Like, you guys know for me, I'm an art streamer. 99% of what I do is art. But I've explained to you before that I fell into a world where all the magic in the world had been taken away and the world was left to ruin. But where I come from, art is magic. And by doing art on stream, I am helping bring little bits of magic back into my world to try to save it. I have a reason for doing art on stream. And that is for the things I do off stream to try to save this world of magic and mystery that is falling to ruin. It was me, I attacked the demon pan, sorry. Gosh darn it. What's my take on VTuber characters that have a little more going on story-wise that handwave the streaming aspect of the lore a little bit? I don't know how to feel about the fact that all VTuber characters are somehow streamers by lore. It paradoxically breaks immersion rather than adding to it. I think you have to have a reason that you are engaging if you want to focus on the lore side of it. If it's not, like, again, personal opinion on someone who likes to go very deep into it. I personally would not make lore that is, and I just want to have fun with my friends in stream. I always want to go much further into it. I want to have not just a reason for I'm streaming to an audience. I need a reason that it is like getting my name out there to an audience is so important for the goals that I have to make based on my lore, right? So going back to the music idea, the reason that a musical demon has to stream is because in general, right, if a musician gets more popular, they start off in a garage band, they pick up a little more gigs in like cafes or nightclubs or whatever, they start getting their name out, they start getting like band posters, they're evolving, they're releasing music albums, their name is getting more and more known in the world, right? So they have to have an audience. The best way that they could have an audience is through streaming. They cultivate the audience, they get their name out, they try to make their presence known so that maybe if their bandmates are on Earth with them, they might find them and be able to contact them and they might be able to reunite again. And notice how, because I keep talking about bandmates in that example, that opens up the possibility to further evolve your lore and potentially introduce new people. You could have your friends joining in, you could have, a new design, you could have different characters coming into things. As it evolves, you could have, maybe they meet one member of their band, they finally got to some stream milestone, they reward that by saying, we finally were able to locate this person, and maybe they have 4 to 6 other members, and they want to keep getting their name out to try to bring the band back together. You can explore things so much deeper when you have a reason to need to get your name out there. Also, hello, Thorn. If you're from Fantasyland, you could think streaming is magical and could potentially get you back home. If you're a sci-fi or cyberpunk character, you could be partially integrated into the computer data, like a Digimon, exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's personally what I would do it. I wouldn't say, I just want to game with friends. I would have a reason that you need to build an audience for what you are doing. In a lot of cases, it could be, I need to get back home. I need to do this to try and get back home to where I came from. Or it could be, I need to connect. I need to get my name out. I need to find someone. For me, it's literally the more art that is generated between me streaming, teaching other people, getting them to make art, doing commissions for people, having that be created, the more art being made, the stronger the magic becomes, the more likely I will be able to get my world back to where it once was. To elaborate, I'm talking about a character that doesn't actually stream and isn't aware of what streaming is in the lore, and the streams are more of a metaphor from the lore side. You can absolutely do that too, yeah. Connecting through the internet with a magic rock in the homeworld? Exactly, yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of people who haven't gone to Earth. I mean, I'm not on Earth. I am still in this world. There is still some magic here. There's just not as much as there used to be. You could absolutely stay on your home planet, home dimension, wherever you're from, and you could be communicating with other people. For me, I've you know, I'm not just communicating with humans, I'm communicating with dragons and robots and angels and demons and fae and mermaids and however other many VTubers I've met, right? All this time I've been helping repair Illusionari. Exactly, yeah. And on here, let me make sure that I'm set here. But yeah, so I think that that makes the most sense for figuring out the content you want to make and how your lore is being tied into the content. Now, the next consideration that we have is who is your audience? As a VTuber, you need to think about who you are attracting. Are you focused more on the say-so and family-friendly side? Are you focused on more of the lewd tuber side? Are you more of a community-focused VTuber, or do you really need the idol focus? For example, someone who is doing the music thing to find their band members, they might need more of the idol focus. They might need something that focuses more attention on them. Whereas someone who's doing more of the cooking to appeal to a wide audience and trying to learn about various ingredients, they might want to try to get their audience involved. They might want to ask their audience, you know, what's this food? What's this animal? What's this spice? I've never heard of this. Can you explain this to me? Can we talk about it? Can we have a category, a stream on the history of spices where you're from so that I can learn the better dishes I can make? That would be someone who might be more community-focused. I'm not on Earth. If I was, it would be in the news. True. Giant dragon descends upon the skies, terrifies civilians worldwide. But yeah, I mean, I would also think about your audience in the sense of, does that also help your content, your lore? As I was saying, for me, it's very much tied to the more art brought into Illusionari, the more it heals. So for me, community makes a lot more sense. The more people I can get to also join in making art, the better my world is. But if you want to take something that is a little bit more focused on yourself, you want a little bit more of that, like, agency presence where your audience loves and respects you, and it takes a while to build up, but you're not as focused on maybe the community games or all that kind of stuff. You still have a lot of community interaction. No VTuber can survive without a community, obviously. But different VTubers have different levels of focus for different niches. That makes sense, right? I feel like there's a million more niches for VTubers to crawl into other than family-friendly, lewd, or idol. Oh, there absolutely are. I'm just giving some of the base examples that we usually think of. This helped me solidify the lore I want. I'm really glad to hear that. If I was on Earth, no one would find me because I'm so teeny. Too busy undermining the buildings and homes. A little, what do they call it? Like a little sprite. It's worth talking about some of the bigger examples. Yeah, I think that these are sort of the ones that most people think of when they think of VTubers just right off the bat. But, you know, you also want to consider your audience because it informs, like, for example, the type of games you play. If you want to do say-so and family-friendly, you're probably not going to be playing, like, I don't know, Cyberpunk or Call of Duty or anything that's a bit heavier. You're probably going to be playing, like, Stardew or Animal Crossing. You know, the audience that you want to cultivate, if you are a cozy streamer, is going to be a lot different than the audience you want to cultivate if you are some battle-torn VTuber who lost this war and needs to find their best friend. I don't know, you can go wild with it. There's a million combinations. But the audience that you want to attract will also inform the type of content you'll be making. I'm say-so, let's play Bloodborne. But yeah, I think that sort of getting that, that general idea of who you want to be hanging around with and who you want to be interacting with, and how that informs what you yourself are doing. I think that that is a very important consideration. Nothing says you can't make some of your lore on the spot. That just makes things fun. He-Man was a product of a bunch of guys making up the lore. Yeah, fair enough. And, you know, your audience can definitely shift things around. Your audience can definitely inform you, and inspire you to take things in different directions, right? So I'm saying something about how, for the cooking VTuber, they might want to learn things from their audience, and their audience introduces them to all these new spices, and then they might decide, well, shoot, there's a lot of different spices I didn't know existed. Maybe I should take a trip to learn about the different spices, and then that might end up being part of their lore, right? So you never know what happens. So basically, I think that by figuring out your content, then the lore tied into your content, and then your audience, you're sort of building those solid foundational building blocks. So now we get a little bit more into the content and lore and how it's tying into your appearance, right? So, as I was saying, if you are playing Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, you most likely will have some aesthetics that are a bit more lighthearted, maybe pastel, maybe some pinks or purples, very friendly, very fluffy. Or you might decide that you kind of want to shift that focus around entirely, and you want to subvert expectations. You want to do a little bit of the Gap Moe thing. You want to sort of throw everyone for a loop, appear super innocent, and then have something crazy behind you. Or you might want to, you know, you might have a look that is a bit more scary, a bit more intimidating, but you're actually a huge teddy bear who bakes cookies, you know? There's so many different ways that you can go about things. I'm a horror VTuber. My reasoning is that I play horror to figure out what makes humans afraid. There you go. Like, you're studying the things you're playing to inform how to terrify the masses. Exactly. If anything, I look forward to the future where I can lean more into my true edgelord nature. See, I think it's fun no matter what you do, as long as you have a reason for doing it. If you want to subvert expectations, I want to know the backstory of how you're subverting expectations, right? I want to hear about why you're this ex-Yakuza boss and why you're baking cookies. I want to know why you like the cute fluffy things, but you might be this, you know, scary detective guy, or why you love cute fluffy things, but you're actually a menace behind the scenes. I want to know more about you, and if you're subverting expectations, that's super cool too. I'm Gapmo, I didn't even know that was a thing. Your voice can totally change a VTuber too. Think about Alfonso Elric and how he's a big scary suit of armor, but also a child who likes kittens. Exactly. Okay. Alfonso is like the perfect example, right? Like that is the ultimate example. Is a giant mech suit warrior looking, extremely tall, extremely large, extremely intimidating character, but is like an innocent child. Like that is the perfect example of what we're talking about. So you don't have to do a subversion of expectation. You can completely go with your aesthetic matching your personality. That's personally how I do it. I want everything to be very like light, crystalline. I want a little bit of elegance in my presence. I don't go like super cutesy, mofu fluffy, chibi-like, and I'm also not doing large, intimidating, elegant, you know, lawn dresses and sort of the K-pop look, right? I sort of have a little bit of that light fantasy vibe to my side. The crystals add a little bit more edge, right? It's not like a bubble or a cloud. It's not super fluffy soft. It has a tiny bit of that edge of seriousness to it. But we're not going straight off to, like, you know, you're from Spy Family, right? FMA plays with expectations so much, the homunculi are half what you'd expect and half not. Mulfu mulfu. What are your thoughts on voice acting as a VTuber? I've tried voice acting my horror narration content in the past, but I really want to experiment if I should voice act or not. You definitely can if you want to. We know a few larger VTubers who voice act, right? It depends on, I guess, how open with it you want to be. Like, I feel that I have a bit of a different presentation voice than when I'm just streaming with you guys, and I have played around before based on various VTuber tropes and antics and things. I personally like speaking naturally to you guys at this point. If you wanted to, you could. I recommend that if you do, you do not make it so far that it is painful and hard to deal with and gets really irritating. Personally, I would not try to fake your voice. I think that it is something that is very, very hard to keep up in the long run. If you want to just exaggerate, if you are doing things like horror narration, and that is a specific type of time with a specific type of content where you want to have more of a personality shining through to emphasize that horror narration, then I think that that definitely works, but it's something that you should sort of focus on for that narration for your horror genre, right? So what I mean by that is, make that something that is emphasizing that particular piece of content, but then if you're just streaming regularly, you can calm down, you can relax, you can speak a bit more generally, you don't have to, what they call, you don't have to be on all the time. I'm using air quotes here. You don't have to be on. You can have a show, and it's hard enough to talk long enough for a show, right? It's hard enough to have that energy, have that engagement, in general, just as a streamer, and by trying to put on a more intense voice, you are adding more stress for yourself that will become apparent in the long run. So I would definitely focus on making it something where it's, like, specific to one certain type of content that you do not need to constantly keep up. Personal opinion, I would not do anything that causes someone to, years later, make a video and make some video, like, exposing Talon's real voice or something, right? Like, you just don't need that stress. You just don't need that stress on you. So, you can play up your voice for different things that you want to do, but I would just do what is comfortable for you. I want to add more metal screaming vocals into the horror narrations, the kind of growly, raspy voice. There are techniques for performing that safely without damaging your throat. See, I would be terrified if you tried to do that for an entire live stream, right? For something like a horror narration, I would honestly, I would advise against it, and the reason that I say that is because a horror narration has to be clear. You have to engage your audience, bring them in, show them the world that you're going to take them to. Keep things a bit softer, a bit more mysterious, a bit more bone-chilling, nerve-wracking. Think about when you watch Critical Role, right? Dungeons and Dragons. Think about when you are watching someone who is trying to voice act to get you to feel a certain way. If you're adding a bit of screaming vocals and metal growling, it's going to be really hard for people to understand the narrative that you're trying to tell. Even if there is text on the screen with your narrative, I think that for horror, your focus should be on enticing your audience, slowing down, getting them to pay attention. Think of it like a campfire story. You want to build up the suspense. You might have a bit of breathiness to your voice. You want to get their attention and slow things down so that they can pay attention to every word you're saying. You want them to think of what you just said and give them a moment to sit on your words before going to the next point. Because this is something with a large buildup. And you have to get them so invested so that when you finally give the horrifying punchline, they are so stuck in that hypnosis of you as a storyteller that the final punch is just that much more powerful. Horror is usually narrated very calmly. Exactly. Putting on a storyteller voice, yes. So I think there's nothing wrong with a storyteller voice. I would just make sure that what you're doing, you don't end up regretting in the long run. But yeah, alright. Appearance. 9 out of 10 performance, good job. I could never be a voice actor, but I love the idea of pushing the emotion in things. You guys are funny. That's the loudest I've ever heard you. It's fun. We do a little bit of acting here and there. Alright, let's get into this. So, again, we're focusing on appearance. We're not yet focusing on the design itself. What do I mean by this? The blue sky phase. Has anybody heard of the blue sky phase before? It is something that I particularly enjoy as a concept. It's something that comes from... Does anybody know, before I go on? Just curious. Has anyone heard of this before? You could be a voice actor if you wanted. People have heard my real voice, but I've been thinking of adding a voice changer, not to completely change how my voice sounds, but to add some flair to add to the character. You could. I think that becomes such a personal choice in the end that I don't want to give too much of my feedback on it. My only thing is just whatever you do, don't make it something that absolutely exhausts you. I'm very recently familiar with the phrase now. Okay, so the blue sky phase is something that came from Disney's Imagineering. Now, for those who don't know what Imagineers are, they are basically the people who design the theme parks. They're the people who sort of figure out the rides and what the world looks like. And when I say the world, I mean like, you know, Tomorrowland or, I don't know, I'm not super familiar with the parks, but it's the people who design the parks. And in the beginning, they go into what is called the blue sky phase, where essentially nothing is off limits. You don't have to consider the budget. You don't have to think about the constraints. If you could do anything in the world, even if it breaks physics, what would you want to do? What do you want to come up with? And then they start initially going from there, and then they can sort of add the constraints, add the budget, add the time limit, all the boring stuff, and get down to the point where they can figure out what is actually realistic, right? But in the beginning, they can think of whatever they want. Money's no object, limits are no object, time is no object, it's just, you know, pie in the sky ideas. Think outside of the box as far as you want to go, whatever you need. Gotta go as I got some celebrations, but I'll watch the VOD. Alright, no worries, Kai. Best with all the celebrations. And have a nice evening. And then Matisse, I've heard the phrase, I've never heard the phrase before. Well, hopefully you know it now. So, blue sky phase, for the design idea, we're just going to start thinking about your favorites of everything. Your favorite animals, your favorite colors, your favorite themes, and I wrote down a bunch of things for you to sort of get the ideas going. Now, you can add things that I might not have thought of. You can add favorite whatevers that I haven't considered. These are just for you to get your initial ideas down, right? All of these things combined should start forming into your ideal design. So, the best way that I think to conquer this is to break this up into 3 separate lists. Your first list is based on animals and nature, because a lot of things in fiction, in storytelling, in our world, are based on nature, right? This can also be nature from another planet or another dimension. I am not judging. But first list, animals and nature. Things like wolves, cats, lizards, the elements, grass, water, fire, crystals, clouds, flowers, natural phenomenon, places, forests, oceans, deserts, various things you like within nature. Second list, colors, fashions, and aesthetics. Basic colors, red, purple, green. Fashions, techwear, medieval, peasant blouses. Aesthetics, cottagecore, grungecore, streetwear, Y2K. All the different things that build up the visual fashion side of things, the representations. So you've got your animals and nature, which is your building blocks of things that are very recognizable to the vast majority of your audience, most likely. Then you've got colors, fashions, aesthetics, the things that sort of give you a bit of your personality, a bit of your branding, the things that you like, that you are comfortable with, that you've sort of tied to your identity. Third list, characters, mythology, and skills and powers. Basically, the things that inspire you, that you look up to. Characters, Madoka Kaname, Light Yagami, Goku, dragons, demons, unicorns, mermaids, mythology, skills and powers, flight, necromancy, telekinesis, swordplay. This could also be, it could also be with, pistols, I don't know, but you've got the things that are familiar, the things that form your identity, and then the things that inspire you. And those 3 lists can help you figure out the directions you may want to go. Now, where do we go from here? We're going to be basically writing down all those different things for each person. So if you wanted to follow along, if you want to make this a more hands-on lesson, you would make these lists, you would write down on a piece of paper, you'd make 3 columns, and you would just start writing down all of the different things that you like, right? It doesn't matter if you love it, if you kind of like it, if it's cool but you're not really sure how you would use it, write it down. Just write down a ton of different things. You should have like 20 to 30 different things. Just, this is your blue sky phase. Write to your heart's content. Think of every single thing that you love and that you just feel as a part of you or a part of your history. Once you have developed that giant list, you can take a break at this point if you'd like. You're going to cut and review. Cut and review basically meaning that you're going to start chopping it down. This is where we're getting out of the blue sky phase and sort of figuring out the considerations of what is practical, right? First step, cut out a third of the list. Because every single person who's making a list with a blue sky phase is going to come back and look at it and be like, okay, I don't really like these certain things. I kind of just wrote them to fill out my list, right? How many of us are guilty of that? How many of us are guilty of being told that we have to fill out something with as much room as possible, and towards the end, we really just start adding things because we want to fill the page so that we can feel more accomplished? Don't lie, I know a lot of you are guilty of this too. I am myself. But first step, take a break, come back, look at the list, see about a third of each list that you kinda just filled out because you wanted to finish the page, make a little bit extra room. Some people might have 10 things on their list, some people might have 50. It's entirely dependent on how intense you want to go with it. But however many you have, cut out 1/3 of it. Your next step is that for each item you've written down, you're going to put a little symbol next to each thing. You're going to take the remaining 2/3, and if you love the idea and are just super obsessed with it, you're going to put in a heart. If you like the idea and you're okay with it and it's pretty, and you're pretty happy with the concept, you put a little star. If it's okay, if you're not 100% on the ball with it, but you wrote it down because it's neat, you put a triangle. You're gonna take another break. These do not have to be long breaks, but I am forcing you guys to step away and look at something else, because when you get tied to it, because you just want to finish this, because you just want to get to the point where you can start being a VTuber, you're gonna be rushing. You're going to be wanting to just get through this because you think that you know exactly what you already want to do. And if you do, and if you're 100% set in stone, go right ahead, have fun. These are for the people who might have a little bit more of a struggle figuring out where they want to go. So, take a break, get a snack, come back, look over those symbols again, analyze them, and think, did I put each symbol in the right place? Am I happy with where I have things? Do I actually really love this, or do I just like it? And the thing that I said it's okay, I thought about it a bit more, and I actually really, really love it and don't want to give it up. Take some time to step back, maybe take a walk around your block, around your forest, around your volcano, I don't know. Come back, fresh set of eyes. Change any of those symbols around that might need to be changed. You might even add more things you hadn't thought of. You might add to your list. That's okay too. This is all going to depend on the individual. Once you think that you have solidified all your little symbols, you can eliminate the it's okay options. They're the ones that are kind of cool in concept. You might not really need them, but they're fun to engage with. Then you are going to take each of your final options, and you're going to start writing why you like each thing. I love how much thought you put into this. It's easy to follow. You outdid yourself. Astrobat, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Also, welcome in. But you're going to start writing down why you like each thing, right? So, for me, I'd have crystals with a heart on it. I'd say, I love it. I can't get rid of it. Why am I so obsessed with crystals? Because they have a flash of iridescence to a lot of them. A lot of them can reflect light, reflect the full color spectrum of a rainbow. To me, that is an ultimate symbolic representation of an artistic magic for myself. I would not be able to live without a crystalline aesthetic. I have evolved myself through my experiences as a VTuber, and I've learned that that is not something I'm gonna get rid of. That is a main thing for me. Rainbows are, again, going back to that art thing, art is very much inspired and represented with Roy G. Biv, all the different colors of the rainbow, so that is the theme that I'm very closely tied with. And, stars, very obvious that that is a direct form of myself. So that's how I would start writing it. I might also write, you know, let me try to think off the bat here. Pastries. I really love pastries. It's no secret that I am very much attracted to delicious berry tarts and jams and all that stuff. Do I like it enough to make it part of my design? Do I want to be a bakery VTuber? Do I want to be like Coronet and have the coronets or the bread aesthetic? No, not really. I love pastries, and that's always going to be something that doesn't change, but not enough to really make it part of my brand. So, once you think of each reason, and if you can't think of a reason for why you like something, get rid of it because there's no passion in it, right? You don't want to try to force a passion into this. Get rid of it. You probably still have a lot of stuff on your list anyway. You should have about a third of your list left across the board in all of the 3 different categories, right? So you have a little bit less going on. Should be a bit more manageable. And you can start going back to more of the experimentation. Start making some loose combinations. You might have a color, an animal, an aesthetic. You write down a green bunny with grungecore vibes. A demon with a fluffy pink aesthetic and fire powers. A magical girl with a fancy white wardrobe. And in your head, you're going to start thinking of different combinations, different things that could play together, different things that could work. You're going to sort of be a bit in your blue sky phase, but every single thing that you write down should be something that you like, that you can kind of see yourself being or doing or representing. You don't need to know what you're going to look like in this stage. You're gathering your rough concepts that you could see yourself being happy with. I would, however, say to avoid one thing. Don't be the purple wolf ferret magical girl detective with ice and lightning powers from the future with a techwear aesthetic and ancient dragon folk regalia hailing from the ancient desert. Because I will have absolutely no idea who you are, or how to follow your lore, your concept, your aesthetic, and something tells me it would be really hard to make you fan art. I want you to be able to think of these combinations as something that you can very clearly communicate to people that they can learn and then repeat to others, right? So, a white-haired CIA robot. You know, that's my mod fits that perfectly. A horror-themed small Tengu creature. That would be Talon. A purple cosmic dragon, and I don't want to say anything about game dev. The reason is because we're focusing on our appearance, right? So even though Thorn is very, very, very focused on game dev, I want to make sure that how I describe him is not entirely based on his content. That seems weird because I've just been going entirely into your content and your lore and your visuals tying together, but you should still be able to explain them independently. Don't be a Mary Sue, check. A green bunny with grungecore vibes, I spy the Gaia grunny. You basically just want to have something that is easy for people to communicate and parrot back. And the reason I say it's important to parrot back is because you want your audience to be able to tell other people about you, right? So, I mean, in like half a sentence, how would you describe me? How would you tell someone else, well, there's this interesting VTuber I watched who did a presentation today, and she is a blank. You want to be able to have a quick, easy to digest, easy to understand concept and theme for yourself. And this is the same in business marketing, right? This is the same in just any particular product. Trying to think of an example off the top of my head right now. Nintendo Switch. A portable game console that can be played docked on your TV and handheld with a variety of games that suits all ages. Celestial Art Fox, there you go. That would be like a really quick way to describe me. If you added something about rainbows or crystals, then that would talk more about my appearance. If you add art, then that talks more about what I do. So you want to be focusing on, when you're describing a VTuber, see if you can describe them regardless of someone having watched them before. See if they can stand out just as the appearance so that they're recognizable, and then you can go into what their content and lore is. And then it ties all together. The simpler it can be explained, the quicker it can be understood. Exactly. Machine to play all 4 Pikmin on. There you go. Handheld is a little bit of a tongue twister. It is when you're sort of presenting off the cuff, right? So you sort of get it, right? You're making the loose combinations, you're thinking about what you want to be doing as a VTuber, and you're thinking about your lore, and you want to think, and don't forget your audience. Don't forget about the audience you want to cultivate. If you're focused on music, you obviously want to cultivate a fan base that is going to be interested in your music. Etc., etc. So, as someone just said, simplicity is a strength. So we've got 4 descriptions here, and I'm entirely basing them on physical appearance. And I don't think I need to tell you who any of these people are, right? A pink-haired Shinigami, a short shark girl with a blue hoodie, and a black and purpled hair British prince. I think all of you know who these are, right? Because their concept and their theme are both very, very strong. But notice how I'm not focusing on what they do or where they're from. This is just based on how strong their idea is. You don't need to know exactly what each of these VTubers look like directly, 100% in all the detail, to get an idea of who they are. You lost me on the prince? The British prince? That one might throw a few people off, but pick your Shinigami is Kaku. Funny enough, I only know who one of them is. Okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit more on the fangirl side, but that's okay. I still think that most of you know at least one of them, right? You spelled Prince wrong. Fair enough. I think each person here knew at least one of these, right? And it's okay if you're not familiar with every single VTuber. No one is. Even Rayless, the lore cat VTuber that should know about every major VTuber. He doesn't know all of them too. He's tried to name every single one on stream before, and it's not really that possible. But it's okay if you don't know every VTuber. However, you can automatically see, based on the descriptions, even if there are some VTubers in here that you don't know, as soon as I showed you their picture, you can now tie that description to their appearance. A pink-haired Shinigami. Boom. Callie, right? We might not know the Shinigami part, but we know the pink-haired part, and if you got to see her full outfit, you would know that she carries around a scythe. It's sort of a symbol of a reaper, of a death god. It all kind of ties together. Gargura, a short, shark girl with a blue hoodie. You might not know the short part looking at that image, but right there, we see the blue hoodie. You're right on simplicity is strength. This is a good test of that. I think it's really good to do this with more popular VTubers, and then even if you wanted to test the simplicity with your own audience, even if it's like, even if you're just starting out, even just like trying to ask someone's opinion in the VTuber sphere, who's like, you know, hey, does this sound like a compelling idea? I think it's worth trying to get some feedback on. Does my concept sound easy enough to understand? Or does it confuse you? Does it throw you off? Is there way too much going on? Are we the wolf, ferret, dragonkin from the future? Or whatever I said before. And then a black and purple-haired British prince. Rin Penrose right there. And if I showed a bit more of the visual, you would see that she's wearing a royal crown. Is Rin in Nijisanji? No, she is an idol. You also spelled Bin Ben Post wrong. Okay, look, I'm doing my best here. I'm just now narrating horror stories, but I eventually want to combine that with horror indie game dev. Would that need to affect my lore? You've tied both of it together already by keeping it in a consistent niche. So I don't think that that would affect your lore too much. You already have the niche set in one solid idea, and you can kind of explore out of it if you wanted to. So I personally, I think you're good there. But yeah, right? So it's just a very simple, easy to understand concept that can apply to the visuals. And again, we don't see the full visual of each character, right? We don't see Gargura's tail, we don't see Rin's crown, we don't see Mori's scythe, but they're still recognizable just on the general idea. And if you said, you know, Celestial Crystal Fox VTuber, you might have a completely different idea in your head of what that looks like than how I visually represent myself to you all. But it gets you a general idea of the vibe, of the aesthetic. You might see something completely different from me, but you're not going to go so off the wall that you start thinking of someone wearing red and black who's tall and intimidating, right? So, again, you're helping tie yourself together. So, sort of, combining everything here, the VTuber concept is sort of these 4 elements combined. You've got your content, the thing that you want to be doing long-term as a streamer. And again, it can change. It can change down the road. What you start off doing might not be the same thing you end up doing. But however, if you decide to change what you do on stream, can you evolve that in a natural way? Could there be the sense that you're that musician looking to find your buddies, and you are the one who comes across all the crazy cuisine, and then you start taking more of an interest into earthly food delights, you want to start exploring that, and then you decide that I want to try spending some of my time here figuring out a little bit of cooking. I have to cook for myself while I'm here. I've tried something I've never tried before. Maybe I want to start exploring that. I'm still going to maybe continue looking for my friends, but that doesn't mean that I can't also try to learn to cook. That is how you can make a shift from music to cooking. Very, very, very different things to be streaming, but I'm saying that you can find a way to tie in exploration of changing what you do. Whatever it is that you start with, though, ideally, you should want to do it. You shouldn't start with figuring out your design and then figuring out the lore of, I came from this magical place and now I'm here to play games with friends. I just feel like there is so much more potential as a VTuber to do things that only a VTuber can do. So you figured out your content. Why are you VTubing? What is this all for? Why are you spending all this time, effort, and energy? And what do you hope to gain? Then your lore. How is this tying into your content? Where are you from? What are you doing? Why are you showing this to an audience? Then your actual audience. Who are they? Who do you need to attract? Who is your target? And who will enjoy the things on your stream the most? And then once you've got those solid pillars, then you can start thinking about your initial theme. What do you look like? What are your favorite characters that you were inspired by? What are your favorite colors, your favorite themes, your favorite animals? And you start writing down all of these concepts. And eventually you'll have something where your content is something you're going to be happy to explore. Because that's the most important part, is getting over that honeymoon phase of your design and having fun with the content. Then how does the lore affect the content? How does the audience find enjoyment in what you're doing? And how do all three of those tie into your theme? And those, in my opinion, in that order, specifically in that order, intentionally, are the 4 elements of a strong VTuber concept. And then, once you've figured all of that out, you can finally start exploring the actual specifics of your visuals. You can start going to the accessory store, you can look at all the cute bows, you can find all the fancy hats, and you can start narrowing down, getting specific, making the mood boards, going on Pinterest. And that is a completely, that is a lesson for the future. Hang on 1 second here. I will be right back. Think a little bit about that, and I will return shortly. There we go. Collect all 4 elements to become your avatar. Yeah, exactly. That's honestly what I was getting at. Is, you know, master these 4 elements and literally become the avatar. 100%. But what do you guys think about this? Does this make sense to you? Is there anything that this sort of made you reconsider? How long have you been VTubing? If you've been... Maybe you've been looking for the sign to change things up. Maybe you have been sort of feeling stuck and looking for a little bit of an answer. And maybe this sort of helped you consider things that you previously hadn't thought of. Let's talk about it. What have you guys learned today? What has this made you potentially reconsider? Or are you fully set in your ways and you're excited to continue how you've been going? I'm too stubborn to deviate from my plans. Totally fair, Bandit. I like this approach, though I have a somewhat different one. Alright, what's your approach, Blank? I'm curious to see, like, how you guys might want to deviate from this. What's your, what is a direction that you personally want to take things? I've learned I'm pretty much not cut out for VTubing. Why do you say that? Now, okay, again, let me make sure I emphasize this and let me make sure that I repeat this. You do not have to take any of this advice. If you want to just be a regular guy and go live and play a game and hang out with your friends and do collabs, and you still have a visual representation of yourself that is not your, webcam, then you are still a VTuber. This does not negate anyone from being a VTuber. What I am saying does not mean that if you're not doing this, that you're not a VTuber. This is me personally thinking there are ways to elevate the very concept of VTubing in itself. This is personally how I think it would be an interesting way to do so. I feel like that this would be a more engaging and unique approach to things. If this is not your cup of tea, if you don't want to spend as much time thinking about this, that is completely up to you, and I'm not here to tell you that if you're doing it another way that you're wrong. This is just how I like to approach it, and how I believe that if you want to make things stronger, this is one way of doing so. And my character is here before. Bleh. I had my character years before deciding to make content, but you're giving me some things to think about when it comes to making stuff fit better. And that's the thing, right? Like, you might have already gone through the entire design process and you're not gonna change from that. And that's totally cool. But even if this just helps you figure out, like, how can I take what I'm doing and sort of tie things together in a more natural way that makes me a little bit more confident, then if I can help a bit with that, then that makes me happy too. I wish I saw this before I was a VTuber. It's got a lot of good advice and consideration on various elements other than, I want to be a cat girl that streams. Exactly, right? It helps you elevate things, helps you take things to the next level. I could write lore, but I don't know if it's worth my time. No worries. If you don't want to write lore, I'm not gonna stop you. I know that there's different people's opinion on how important lore is. For me, it is absolutely essential. I have to tell my story to you guys. I would not want to be VTubing without it. And for other people, it doesn't matter at all, and that's completely fine. Hasn't changed anything about how my makeup is as a virtual Muppet. But I'm finding I have other things to focus on. Yeah, that's totally fine. And things can evolve over time, right? Like, nothing is set in stone, like I was mentioning with the example of the demon bandmates. You can create ways to open yourself up to potential evolution in the future if you wanted to. Doesn't mean you have to. But you can give yourself flexibility. I'm personally a massive world builder, so I like to think of a character molded by the world they live in makes them feel more believable and real. It's less of a VTuber-specific approach, but I like to think most good characters can work as VTuber personas. as long as the character works with your actual personality. Yeah, world building is absolutely a huge point you can consider as well. This is sort of more of a standard VTubers approach, just for the majority of streaming type content creators. But if you want to go super in-depth into world building, then I see absolutely nothing wrong with that, and make it as intense as your heart's desire. Honestly, I mean, your evolution as a VTuber could spark an entire series of novels, right? There's no one saying that it's just limited to streaming or recording video content for an audience. I believe that for VTubing, you should be making some sort of video content. But in terms of where you want to take it beyond that, if you want to have a tabletop game entirely dedicated to your concept, your lore, your world, have at it. Go as wild as you can imagine. Don't let anyone stop you from wanting to expand upon your ideas further than we have in VTubing. I would, I'd love to have an art book someday and sort of have more visuals that I could show you guys of Illusionari. I mean, there you go. World building right there. I have a desire to introduce more of my world to you all. That's further than most VTubers choose to go, but I find it important. My lore is literally built on repairing a world that lost its magic, and in order to give a legitimacy to that, it would help if I showed you more of that world as time went. So, you can go as far as you want with things. You need to talk to me about compendiums. I'm obsessed with compendiums. I'm obsessed with tomes. The heavier and more pages an encyclopedic type book has, the more exciting it is to me. One may have noticed all my art is part of the established world. The idea is to have any potential VTuber persona also be an inhabitant of that world. Shardreach. I love that name. It's a very nice name. I have noticed that all of your art does lend itself to feeling that it's all in the same location. So I definitely see that, yes. I think a lot of the world building side that we also really love is I think there's a lot that we could, on the VTubing side anyway, I think that there's a lot that we got from Merryweather's animations, right? The lore animations for VShoujo. I think that opened up the... not the possibility, because it's always been there. I think that opened up the... I want to say the realization that we can keep going further than just our streams. And, again, this goes back to you don't need a whole lore video to be a VTuber. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a custom lore video. Totally get that. But the concept behind the lore video, not just, the lore itself, which a lot of us want to establish, but the visuals, regardless of, affording the expensive art or whatnot, the visuals of telling the lore kind of in that anime or manga type format, I think is something that would be really cool to see more of. Shardreach is a great name, yeah. What are your thoughts on making a book on the whole ecology of your creatures' fauna and flora of the world building? So basically you want a bestiary slash botany book. I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I want to see more crazy books written by VTubers explaining where they're from. That would be really cool. Can't draw, that's why I don't really want to write lore. I'm more of a visual person. Text doesn't really do anything for me. That's fair, that's fair. I think it's okay to still do, like, a very quick summary. And then you never know how things might evolve in the future. And, you know, it's totally optional. When I say quick summary, it can be, you know, as quick as just the half-sentence concept that we established earlier, right? If it's just on your visuals, totally fine too. I just think it's just worth exploring a bunch of different stuff, and if it doesn't work for you, then there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I never thought that I would actually do any world building in any of my content, period. I didn't ever consider trying to introduce any of you to Illusionary. It's always been there, but I never considered having more of a tour guide approach, I suppose is the best way to say it. I was sort of dealing with the magical destruction problems on my own. I didn't really think that you guys needed to know too much about the specifics, but as things evolved, I started becoming more comfortable with introducing you to that world. So you never know how things are gonna go. But yeah, does anybody have any other questions with anything that we spoke about? Anything, any considerations or anything you want me to further explain or go over? Never know how things are gonna go. Life lessons with Starlight. Man, my VTubing journey has all been unpredictable. It has all been stuff that I have not been able to imagine or There's no way that when I started out VTubing that I would have pictured eventually doing a presentation on the lore and content concepts for you guys, right? I started off VTubing thinking that my entire purpose was to advertise art for wrapping paper and greeting cards. Never did I think that I would be doing a lecture on themes and world building and lore and all kinds of elements of consideration. 2023 has been a mad year for me, full of unexpected things, both good and bad. You really don't know how things are gonna go. Yeah, I mean, what do they say? Man plans, the universe laughs. But if nobody has any questions, I think we can wrap it up there. Again, if you have not yet joined the Discord, definitely consider joining the Discord. We have a creative cafe channel, which is where you can sort of talk about content, lore, character design, concepts, themes, ideas. You can talk to each other, give each other different types of advice, ask for a critique or different opinions. As I was saying, you know, if you want to ask someone in our server, hey, does this feel like a compelling concept? Does this seem too confusing, or does this seem to make sense? You can absolutely ask it in the Creative Cafe. And, you know, it's called that because it's a nice cafe-type chat area. So definitely consider joining the Discord if you haven't. One thing that I do want to also emphasize here, let me go back to our main scene here. There we go. One thing I would like to emphasize to you guys is that going forward, temporarily, I'm still having a little bit of irritation with my wrists, and I really need to be focusing on commissioners because they've been waiting a long time for me to sort of be able to draw again, and I'm trying to take things slowly to not make anything harder. So as a result, I'm going to be focusing a bit on commissions more behind the scene, and temporarily we will be having streams once a week on Saturdays. This is not forever. I fully intend to make my streams a twice a week thing, but for the time being, they are going to be a once a week thing, so if you want to catch up and say hi, definitely make sure to stop by Saturday. I'm not really sure what next Saturday is going to entail. If you guys have any ideas or anything you would want to see another presentation on, let me know. I just realized I missed Kai's point about wanting to hear about naming, so we can definitely discuss that in the future as well if you'd like. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, or night, stargazers. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope you learned something today. And with that, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.